Hey guys, Arthur Images here, and today I'm going to share with you my 4 tips to editing amazing lifestyle images. Now I've broken down how I edit lifestyle images into 4 simple steps. The first step is identifying your subject. Now you should do this long before you pick up the camera or even go to the shoot. It's good to know who you're shooting and why you're shooting because this helps the second part of that, which is the framing and positioning of your image. Now, understanding what your subject is or who your subject is can help you get the best in terms of framing and the angles that you use to help convey the image. So it's always a good idea to kind of think of this beforehand, and which is why identifying your subject is the number one step. The second step is establishing a mood or deciding on a mood for your image. Is it going to be nighttime, daytime? Is it going to be morning or evening? Is it going to be indoors, outdoors? Is it going to be happy or sad? What sort of emotion or a vibe you want the image to give? These are 2 things that can be done before the actual shoot or before the actual capturing of the image, and they help to streamline the editing process. So establishing a mood can help you a lot. So before I go into the third and fourth step, let's take a look here at what we're gonna look at today. So this is the image. This is the final image that I've edited, and this is one of my favorite images that I've done in recent times because it's so simple, but there was a lot of thought behind it. So let's look at the original image. This is the original image. And as you can see, it doesn't look anything like the final one, but I'll explain how I got to that point. So we have this shot, and Laura is my subject, and I wanted to frame her. The idea I had here is I saw these 2 trees, and I wanted to kind of bookend the frame with the trees and put her in the middle, just for sort of like a balance. And at the time, I was thinking of a symmetrical balance. So, step number 1 complete. I have my subject, and I decided how I was going to frame her. And then the second thing I had in my mind, well, what kind of mood I want to give the image. Well, it was late in the evening when we shot this, and usually I was thinking in my head, runners either go running late in the evening or early in the morning. So when I was speaking with Laura, I was like, well, what time works best for you? Do you want to go early in the morning or late in the evening? And she said late in the evening. And so I want to give it that sort of like end of day sort of feel. So, and I also wanted to just elevate the mood of the image a little bit more to make it more uh, warm and pleasant and inviting. So I did a color treatment to the image here in Capture One. And Capture One is the software that I use to process all my raw images. Here I'm going to talk about the third step. And the third step is once you've identified your subject, once you've established your mood, the third thing you want to do is go ahead and clean the image. And cleaning the image is essentially removing any distractions that take your eyes away from the subject. So, one way of doing this, I like to sit back at the image and just sort of kind of play, where's Waldo? Let my eyes wander a little bit to see all the things that can be a little bit distracting. Now, one thing that I've found out over the years is that if there are words or letters or any signage in an image, especially lifestyle images, your eyes naturally want to go and read the sign to see what it's saying. So you can see here we've got on a background caution, we've got the sign up top, we've got this no entrance trespassing sign right here. All these things are taking away from the subject, right? I want our eyes to stay on the subject and see where the subject is and see where the subject is also moving towards, right? So we can see the subject here in the middle of the frame, and she's moving from the center of the frame to the left of the frame. And, your eyes naturally want to go that way. And, oh, there's my assistant. There's Alan behind a tree holding the light. So that's also a distraction. One of the things I love about Capture One is I can put all my notes onto the image non-destructively before I start editing. So here you can see my notes here, and I've got, a big X across the sign. I also have an X across her head. I'll get to that in a second. And then down here, you see I have extend. Now, talking about the subject and where the subject is and where the subject is moving towards, I look at this frame and I was like, I like how the tree trunks are bookending the frame to kind of add a little bit of symmetry, but I also want to show the movement of Laura moving through the image. So I thought of maybe extending the frame to the left to just give her some room to run towards or run into. So this is where my thought process is, going with this image. So we're already on step number 3 and we haven't started editing yet. And that's what I love about this process is it's more of like a creative plan. It takes you through how you're going to approach an image. So identifying your subject, establishing a mood, and then going about cleaning the image. And the first part of that is making mental notes, or you can make it on an image just like this, of how you're going to clean that image. Now, the fourth and final step of this process is the build out. Now you have your plan, you need to execute. And this is where I'm going to go into detail on how I executed on this image. So let's go back here to the head. I have a big X over the head because a few things. I love the form she has right now, and she's a runner, so I want to showcase her in good or perfect form, near perfect form. And the reality is that you're never going to get perfect form all the time. Sometimes you never get it. And one of the things I've learned from experience is that if you want perfect form, you have to do a lot of frames, because what's going to happen is you may have to combine part from one image with another part from another image to get the perfect form. So going back here, I love the form, but then if you zoom in here, she's looking down. I prefer if she was looking straight ahead. And then her hair, she had her hair in a ponytail, but it's not showing most of her hair. So I shot 386 frames of different looks from the shoot, and I can just browse through. We've got a whole bunch of different images and stuff, but I already flagged this one. And if I zoom in here, I love this one. She's got a nice smile again. She's looking forward, and her hair is nice. Kind of caught her like, at the end of her stride, and the ponytail just bounced up a bit. So it's like, I love her hair right here. I want to use this head on the image. However, her form is right at the end of the stride. So you can see her hands came together, her feet's already planted. So I'm like, comparing the two images, I prefer to use the first one we were looking at up here. So in Capture One, I made a couple notes for editing notes as to what my plan is going to be. So let's see what I have here. Discard this side of the frame, lose the body, keep the head, and keep... Okay, so what I was when I was talking about extending the frame, you can see on the second image to the left of the frame, it has more of the backside of the tree and sort of more of the pavement where she's running towards. So I'm thinking I can take this image and combine it with the one that I was looking at prior to that. All right, where I said extend. So what I'm going to do now for the build out phase of this 4-step process, I'm going to move from Capture One into Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and I've got these images all laid out. And the good thing about Capture One is what it does is once you get into Photoshop, it takes all your notes and puts them on a separate layer so you can turn them on and off. So this is nice because you don't destroy the image. You just use the layers in Photoshop to your advantage. So you can see the final image that I have down here. And let's walk through the build out on how I took these two images and combined them to make this final image here. So let's just maximize this. There All right. So every time I start my build out, I always like to organize my layers into folders. And let's see what we have here. And I did a little color coding system. I always start in the red and work my way up to green. And by the time I get to green, I know my edit's almost complete. So looking at this, let's turn that off. You can see I extended the image, the canvas to the right a little bit to give us some room to add that second frame. So let's jump into here. All right, so the first thing that I did is I took the head from the other image and I just made a selection, cut it out, and pretty much lined it up near perfectly. And then I went ahead and cleaning the image. So I'll just turn this on and off, and you can see I got rid of all the signs, all the little specks of dirt on the ground, and all the little cracks in the wall, all that stuff. And doing this really helps a lot to just give that image a polished look. So the cleaning process goes a long way in lifestyle editing. So yeah, I put the head on there and then start working my way around the image. So if I go back here, you see I had this little note. I could see part of the light here near this garage, but then you could see the light beam on the door. So it's like, I would like to take this light from here and put it right there. So back in Photoshop, that's essentially what I did. I created a little pot light to just kind of help complement that beam on the door right there. And then the next thing you can see over here, this wall isn't adding up with this wall because they're from two separate images, right? So what I end up doing is just cutting and transforming that layer to just match. I wanted that line to pretty much line up with the wall on the other side. After that, what did I do? So zooming in here, you could see when you sort of transpose different parts of images onto one another, it's always it can be a challenge in making them line up. So you can see right here, this part of the neck, you can see the cut. You can see that cut. Now, you might say, well, this is such a small detail, you won't see this when you zoomed out. But when you print stuff, that's when the little details really come out. So I always like to take care of those, nip them in the butt while I can. So I just made a little fix right there just to even them out. That's what I did. The other thing that I did was I added a flare in the left side of the frame just to kind of add to the overall warmth of the image. So I like adding flares to add warmth because just upping the color temperature of the image doesn't cut it most of the times. You could see here without the flare, there's shadows on the ground, and if there's shadows, there needs to be a light source. It's just the same thing. If if there's smoke, there's fire. Well, if there's shadows, there needs to be a light. So I always like to add a light, and adding a nice soft flare out of the left-hand side helps to just brighten up the image a bit. And then I just added a flare, another flare just on top, just to kind of help add a little bit to the intensity there. So next, I went ahead, and if you look to the left side of the frame here, you can see that there's a big pool of light right here, but it's not extending on this side of the tree. So I just wanted to add a little bit of continuity, a little bit of cohesiveness to the overall image. So I just went ahead and just add just a little bit of spillover for that light. If you look right here in the left-hand corner, I'll zoom in here. You can see this is before and this is after. Now the color difference of the two are a little bit different, so I just went and just changed the hue of that to just kind of match it to that side. So that's what it looked like before and after. All right, so getting near the end here, and we're in the green zone. And what I wanted to do next was just shape the body a little bit. The light coming in now is a little bit intense, so I just added a little bit of uh, dodging to the thigh here, just to show how the light's interacting with her. And after that, just a little high pass layer just to add a little bit of sharpness. And then the final thing, it was a color grade. And that's what it looked like before. All right, guys, there you have it. So just to recap, the 4 steps I use to editing lifestyle images is you want to establish your subject, identify your subject, know who your subject is, what your subject is, and why you're shooting. This helps you when it comes to framing and positioning, and helps you deliver the best possible image in the end. The second thing is you want to determine a mood for your image. Think about the emotion, think about the idea, the vibe behind the image. What sort of message you want to communicate with the image. And this usually comes out a lot once you're deciding on the color grading, the temperature, the warmth or coolness of the image. This is usually where that mood kind of comes into play. The third thing is, once you have all of those, is to go ahead, clean your image, free your image of any distractions, things that are in the image that are taking your eyes away from the subject. These could be highlights, dark spots, shadows, odd colors that are in the frame. Get them out, clean it up. And you'll find once you do that, the image just has such a more pleasing and aesthetic feel to it, just much more polished. And then the last thing to do is build out your image. And building out your image involves adding stuff to the foreground, background, really altering the color of the image and the overall grade of it. It's more of a creative brainstorm, this process, but I find doing this to all my lifestyle images really brings out the best quality in them. So hopefully you can take this, apply it to your images as well. And it doesn't have to be as elaborate as this. I went into a lot of detail here, but it could be just simple as changing the white balance of your image and maybe removing strand of hair, a little crease out of the fabric, or just a weird sign in the background. If you apply these steps to how you edit your images, you'll get so much better quality in the end. I can almost pretty much guarantee that. So hopefully you guys love this 4-step process to editing lifestyle images. If you think I missed something or want to find out some more techniques, just drop a comment below. Also, hitting the like button wouldn't hurt. And if you haven't subscribed to me as yet, well, please subscribe. It helps out a lot, and it's nice to know that you guys are interested in what I have to share. So, until next time, this is Arthur Images signing off. Catch you in the next one. Peace.